Welcome to Fans of the Forge. I'm Chris. To my right we have
Teresa.
And to my left we have
You have Sean.
And our special guest interviewee today we have Jason Nass. How are you, man?
Doing pretty good, man.
Thank you for coming on. This was all brought on. It all dates back to an earlier episode we did. One of the very first wrap-ups we did for the Forged in Fire. Your episode specifically, Season 5, Episode 8 for the Zande Spear. And this was when we first started doing these wrap-ups, so we were a little more...
Naive
and didn't really understand a lot of the processes. So when we were trying to make content, we were being more crass about things that we shouldn't have been criticizing.
Well, we didn't know better.
We didn't know any better.
So
in putting that one up, we actually heard from Drew, and Drew offered to come on and do an interview with us, and he set us straight in his interview with, and then you commented on our video the other day, and I was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity to have him on and let him share his side of the story for what happened on his episode, and ask him some other questions. So thank you again for coming on with us.
Not a problem. Happy to be here.
So we're going to jump right in. For your episode, Zande Spear, the first thing they always call out is your years of experience. And yours at the time was 20 years of experience. And I know you do blacksmithing mostly by trade, right?
Well, at the moment I'm doing heating and air conditioning, but yeah, mostly I'm a blacksmith more than a knife maker. I kind of got into it from the knife making end. Nicholas Marcellia, who also known as Grendel, he won the season 4, episode 2, Deerhorn Knives episode.
Okay.
He was the guy who got me into blacksmithing when I was living out in Oregon, and him and his partner. And then I started out with knives, and then it just degraded into all of the insane, crazy nonsense that I do now.
Nice. In the episode, your goal with the money you were going to get was to move out of the city. Now, have you accomplished that goal?
Unfortunately, no. We've actually moved deeper into the city. However, now we own our own homes. Actually, we're getting 2 homes for under $10,000, and they're actually in a fairly decent neighborhood, but it's still the city. We like the country. Mm-hmm. I think we're just going to have to wait until the parents... hopefully stick around forever, but,
Of course.
I think we're just going to have to wait until we can take over the payments on their house or something. I don't know. Unless who knows? Something might come through for us eventually, and we might be able to get into another place. But we're kind of thinking, maybe we want to die here because this move has been absolutely brutal, and I don't want to move ever again. Moving sucks. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's for sure. Although Sean may be moving soon.
I might be moving soon, so we'll see.
Don't do it. Stay where you are. Don't do it. It's miserable.
Tell Charlotte that.
Good to know. All right.
All right, honey, why don't you do the next one?
All right, so getting into the episode, what were you thinking when you found out you had to make a Damascus European dagger as the first round challenge?
Really, the first thought was, oh man, I really didn't want to do Damascus. Mm-hmm. Not for any reason that it's difficult or anything. I do a lot of Damascus steel. It's honestly, God's honest truth, Damascus steel is very easy to do, but it is very time consuming to do it properly. So, having to go in, I see Will whip the cloth off the blade, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I've done stuff like that. Not a problem. And then please don't let it be Damascus. Please don't let it be Damascus. And, of course, it's Damascus. And initially, all I see is stuff for canister. And I'm like, okay, I really don't want to do canister on, this is the last scenario. And then when I got up there, I found, and he announced at some point that, we've got strips, and I'm like, okay, cool, laminated. That's at least easy.
So how thankful were you that Jay Nielsen was offering advice for this challenge, and you recommend that you flip your blade around for your thermocycling?
Yeah, that actually kind of came about. That was kind of a funny moment because I'm not used to working. What am I trying to say there? The 3-burner forges that they have, they kind of told us don't mess with the burners. So I'm like, okay. Usually when I heat treat in my own forge, I turn off the back burners so that the far end doesn't get there. And I don't know what I was thinking. I just thinking, all right, get it in there, get it, run some normalizing cycles. And Jay comes down and says, hey, you're overheating your tip. And I'm like, oh, yeah, thank you, Jay. I know it didn't come out, in the edit, there's so much you guys do not see in the edit. There is, that 3 hours is absolutely 100% legit. Anybody who thinks it's not, that clock starts and you have 3 hours. The competition, at least from that end, is incredibly genuine. Right. So, it was just, thankfully he kind of saved my butt there, and I was trying to express that and I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about. And, honestly, being on camera was kind of nerve wracking. You got like 12 guys with cameras running all over in your way, people coming and talking to you. It's pretty nerve-wracking experience.
I've talked to you about Drew, the guy Drew Goodson who won the episode, and
yes,
you mentioned you guys are.
Drew, I look at Drew as the little brother I never wanted. I love that kid. He's amazing. He's definitely going to be one of the top smiths in the world if he keeps at it. He's going to be freaking amazing.
So that being said, what did you think when you saw him walk into the forge dressed to the nines in a vest and nice pants and ready to look good while forging?
I thought to myself, well, somebody's trying to suck up to Dave. And, on a realistic thought, I was just like, yeah, that's not going to be comfortable at all.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be my first choice for forge attire.
No.
I went with my old beat-up Carhartts and a gray T-shirt just because it was comfy, my black hat because that's kind of a signature for me, and, it's like, all right, let's do that.
So in the second round, when you had to put the handle on and you had a whole bunch of epoxy everywhere, you made a comment about epoxy in your underbridges. And the question is, did you have epoxy in your underbridges?
No, one of the things that they do ask you, I don't think I'm breaking contract or anything here, but one of the things that the camera crews and the producers do ask you is to kind of, ham it up, talk to the camera and stuff. So, the happy blacksmith dance that you guys see on there, that's genuine. I do that all the time. I'm really upbeat and happy when I'm in the forge beating on hot steel. And I am a very, very silly guy. You can talk to anybody who actually knows me. I'm really just constantly cracking jokes and busting balls, so to speak. So
What test made you more nervous, the oil can stab or the fish slice?
Well, the oil can stab, because the oil can stab is, going to be, that's the most traumatic. I knew the blade would penetrate. I knew it would cut at least to some degree. One of the things about that forge that they've got there, and a lot of people don't take into account, is you have about 5 or 10 minutes beforehand to get acquainted with what they have and where everything is. So I'm looking around, and a lot of this didn't make the edit, but I'm looking all over the place trying to find sharpening stones. I was looking all over the place trying to find needle files and, they really won't help you. They won't tell you where something is, but I would have liked to have put a more refined edge. That was just the 220 grit belt, and then I think I went to a 400 slack belt on it, and just got it there, but I wasn't able to really polish the edge and then strop it to get rid of the burr. So I think that probably didn't help it a whole lot.
Right.
When it came to the final round and you saw the Zande Spear, did the judges provide steel and wood material for you to use for that particular challenge?
Yes, absolutely. Forged in Fire, when you're going back to your home forge, they do give you materials that will be suitable for the challenge. That's part of what you get out of it. You're not required to use them, but they do give you that. In our case, we were required to do the spear. The handle was supposed to be done from that piece of wood. We weren't, or at least what I was told by the rules department was, yes, it has to be, taken down from that. They gave us 2x2 ash.
Yep.
So we were told, yes, it has to be taken down from that. You can't just go out and buy a handle.
Gotcha.
Because otherwise I had a great source for 1.5-inch lathe turned ash.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I was allowed to, believe me, I would have just called up one of my buddies up here who he does a lot of fencing swords and crossbow prods and spears and stuff for medieval reenactors, and he has tons and tons and tons of that. He's got ash from I think 7/8 all the way up to 1 3/4, in 10-foot lengths and stuff. So it would have been really easy to get something perfectly round, but.
Did you have any reservations when you saw the cannon?
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw the cannon, I was just like, oh, wow, this is the second time I've ever seen it used. And actually, no, I'm sorry. Let me rechange that. The Boar Spear episode was the only other episode that the air cannon has been used, unless they've used it in the past 2 or 3 episodes. I haven't seen the last 2 or 3 episodes yet, so don't spoil them for me.
No worries.
Where were we? Air cannon. Yeah, I had never seen the Boar Spear episode. It was the only episode prior to filming that I had never seen. Amusingly, I think the night when we were in New York, the final night after filming the finale, it was actually on TV that night. And I was like,
no way. That's crazy.
And I actually talked to the gentleman because if you watch that episode, you'll see that Jay, comments that I can feel it probably warped a little bit because I can feel it hanging up. And I actually talked to the gentleman who won that episode, and he made comments to the effect of, I am shocked that they had you guys make those to such tight tolerances, because they told us to make ours a lot smaller. I think he said keep it between 1.125 and 1.25, which would have given, a good 1/2 inch plus tolerance.
Yeah.
They told me that boar was 1.25 or 1 3/4. I think it was actually 1 5/8. I'm not sure, but I had a 1 9/16 ring over the shaft of my spear, and it fit the whole way.
Let's make splinters. Did you come up with that, or did the people on the show kind of feed that to you?
Nah, that was just off the cuff. They're like, let's make what's his name? Daniel was like, yeah, let's make sushi, joking around, and they're like, use that. So it was just, Yeah, it's just off the cuff, like dumb remarks that got made, because there's a whole lot of standing around and a whole lot of like behind the scenes silliness that goes on when you're filming. Honestly, I think they need to give whoever's handling the Smiths, they need to give them a camcorder and get some behind the scenes footage of some of the nonsense that we come up with to entertain ourselves while we're waiting for hours on end. I think it would make great TV.
You had mentioned that the handle warped during shipping. Did it cross your mind at all that could happen?
I really wasn't thinking about it. Honestly, at the end of, the end of that 45 hours that you're given to make that weapon, I really just wanted that thing the heck out of my shop. That was a brutal experience. Give you guys some of the stuff you didn't get to see. Like the moment the film crew showed up for the first day of filming, I hear their car door slam, and literally that moment, the entire electrical system in my shop fried. Like literally, there was a huge electrical fire in my shop. And one of the things I researched about the Zande culture is that they don't believe in bad luck. Everything that goes wrong is witchcraft. And I'm just like, they're incredibly superstitious. So, I'm like freaking out. I've got this electrical fire going on. I finally got that squelched. And I'm like losing my mind. I'm thinking, okay, no, I'm not going to do this competition because I'm going to die if I do. So... there was a lot of craziness that went on, filming in my shop for that. So, I was just like at the end of that experience, and it's grueling because, you're working 10-hour days. You've got an hour break that you can split up however, and it's just grueling. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to get that thing crated up and out of my shop. And the whole idea, the other thing is they do not tell you what the final round challenges are. I don't know if you guys realize that. You are going into it absolutely blind. You have no idea. Everything I had researched on the Zande Makriga, which is actually the proper name for that spear, indicated that was a thrusting weapon only. In the Zande culture, a warrior who had thrown his Makriga would have been considered to have unmanned himself and would have been shunned by the whole tribe. So the whole idea of it being launched out of an air cannon or anything like that was really never even crossed my mind. I was really expecting some sort of like pneumatic thrusting rig or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, I had never seen the air cannon. The only other time they used the air cannon in an episode, it was the only episode I had never seen.
Right, of course.
It's my luck. It's the luck of the Irish,
So I think that's it for episode questions to really focus on. We do have a couple other general questions that we wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I was watching, I scrolled through your YouTube. I saw you had some of those instructional videos. And in the one that I watched for a little while, you were using a coal forge. But I know on the show, you had a propane forge. So do you have a preference?
Yes. My preference is to have both. Okay. There are things where coal excels and things that coal sucks at. There are also things that propane excels at and propane sucks at. The properly equipped shop has both so that you can use, whichever heating method. Coal is very, very cheap, at least where I live. I pay about $200 a ton for coal, and that is a little over a year running in the shop. I can burn coal for about a year before I have to go get more when I buy a ton. Okay. So we're figuring 200, 225 a ton. A 100-pound tank of propane costs me $91 and lasts me between 30 and 40 hours.
Okay.
So we can do the math there. I spend $3,500 to $4,000 a year in propane. Running when I'm running full time.
Yep.
So one of the things about coal is a lot hotter. So you can get bigger heats. You can also spot heat. Whereas propane, the nicety is you can put 20 things into the forge at once and just pull them out one after another. They'll never burn or melt. But it's an all or nothing heat. Whatever is inside the forge is going to get hot. You don't really have the option to heat up just one little area. So they both have their ups and downs, and the best shops have access. You have both of them that you can use whichever you need to use.
That makes sense.
So where do you get your customers from?
A lot of them are online, just people randomly. I do tend to blanket all over Facebook and stuff. I do have a large kind of following locally here in Cleveland. I'm also a officer with the Western Reserve Artist Blacksmith Association, which is the local Abana affiliate, Abana being the national blacksmithing organization. I attend Quad State Roundup every year in Troy, Ohio. That's the largest blacksmithing gathering in the United States. It's even bigger than the national organization's gathering. And I do a lot of art shows, craft shows. I've done some county fairs, some city festivals, whatever and wherever.
Is there a material and style you prefer when making blades?
I prefer to work with carbon steels. I don't like the exotics. I definitely don't like stainless. And really what I'm known for blade-wise is doing integrals. And I don't mean just integral bolsters, but integral guards, pommels, handles. I've got one blade. It's forged entirely from 1-inch 5160. It's a big double-edged blade, about 28 inches long. Kind of has a bit of a Celtic leaf type blade, but the handle, the pommel, and the guard are all forged one piece. The handle and pommel are both hexagonal, and that's a beautiful piece. Which actually, that was a piece that I forged in my interview process for Forged in Fire, because I didn't have a whole lot of blade pictures of my blades, because most of my knife making was years ago, before the advent of cell phone video cameras and having a camera on you at all times. I still have a hard time getting used to that sometimes. So let's take more pictures, really.
So how long for, say, maybe a Bowie style knife, if you were to make something like that, how long do you think it would take you to make that blade from design to completion?
So that's such a loaded question, because there's so many. Obviously, the more intricate something becomes, the more time it's going to take.
Right.
I do have clip point Bowie style blade. It's actually on my website. It's Damascus Steel. It was a collaboration project. It's Poole and I patterned Damascus Steel. The steels were 1085 and 15N20. That was all hand welded and hand drawn at the open forge that I host. A bunch of the guys got into, they wanted to make Damascus, so they'd swing sledgehammers. I created the steel. They did help a little bit with the design work and, putting the handle together and shaping the blade. I did a lot of the actual grinding and shaping, though, and finishing, just to make sure it got done right, because it was going to be a raffle item for raising, fundraiser for our open forge project. Mm-hmm. And I think we had a grand total of about 35, maybe 40 hours of work into it. But at the same time, if I'm doing the same thing in a mono steel and doing simple scales. I could probably turn the same blade out in, 6 to 8 hours of, real time, because you've got, all of your thermocycling and your, heat treating processes, where most of that is just sitting on waiting for it to cook.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, as far as real time, we're talking time forging, grinding, putting handles together, 8-10 hours for a buoy, probably, give or take. But, again, that's working in a mono steel and,
sure.
Having everything efficient, which efficiency isn't necessarily one of the hallmarks of my shop.
Besides blades, what is a popular thing that you make?
I do make a lot of hammers, tongs, punches, hardy tools, top tools, a lot of blacksmith's tools. I've also done a whole lot of railing work, doing ornamental gates, railings, fences, that kind of stuff. I've done big chandeliers, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, awesome.
So Chris and I are hoping to get into some sort of smithing, blacksmithing, bladesmithing, trying to set up a home forge. So, we've kind of been asking pretty much in almost every interview, do you have any good beginner's tips?
Yes, take some classes. That's the biggest thing. I mean, you certainly can learn this by just, picking up a hammer and beating around and whacking. And I mean, YouTube is a huge boon. When I first started doing this, YouTube didn't exist. So, you really had to, there are a lot of books out there that you can read. But you really kind of, if you really wanted to learn how to do it, you kind of had to search out somebody else who knew how to do it and, get tips and tricks from them. Nowadays, that's not, it's easy to find classes. Abana is a lot bigger, so there's a lot more smiths around, as well as the ABS. It's really easy to find other smiths. Most of us are really, we love to hang out with other smiths. Just this last weekend, Adlai Stein, who's another previous Forged and Fire competitor who lives in Columbus, he had the open house for his Central Ohio School of Metalworking going on. And myself, Bryden Kinneard, who else was there? Michael Hoops, who's another big hammer maker, John King. There were a lot of, at least Ohio local, really well-known smiths there, because we're just demonstrating and supporting Adlai, and I think he was kind of wanting to have some of us at least as, occasional guest instructors down at his school. But getting involved with your local club, it's going to give you an access to a whole lot of resources. So, classes, get involved with Abana, especially if you want to go blacksmithing, or the ABS if you want to go knife smithing. Attend the big events, attend the conferences, go to hammer-ins, Quad State every September, 2,500 or so blacksmiths descend on Troy, Ohio, and every tool you could possibly want is there. Blue, the company that makes the big blue hammers,
yep.
They're set up there every year.
Oh, wow.
And you'll meet literally all the big names in smithing. My buddy Pete Braspenix is doing some amazing stuff. He's Fire Forge with a PHY, but he does amazing stuff with just putting crazy new takes on traditional joinery. Some of the really well-known bladesmiths and blacksmiths are there. Guys like Colin Fung and Jeff McCready are there every year. We always try to have a few really big demonstrators. Like last year, I think we had Kevin Cash in for the bladesmithing demonstration.
Oh, cool.
We've had Finn and Liam Christie there. We've had Peter Bruner, rather. J.W. Randall, I actually met him at Quad State about 8 or 9 years ago, I think it was. And he was really the one who took my Damascus to a whole new level. He totally changed my thinking on Damascus when I, took his seminar. So, I mean,
cool.
That kind of stuff, get to know people, get out there. And above all, remember that, a hammer's just a rock and an anvil's just a bigger rock. You don't need all of the tools that you see. You look in a shop like the Forge and Fire shop, or you look at these other shops, and they've got, $10,000 power hammers and $15,000 presses, $4,000 grinders, all that. You really don't need them. We did this work for how many millennia with files and, flat rocks and all of that. Look at some of the old work, like go to the New York Metropolitan Art Museum, realize they really didn't understand metallurgy, and they didn't have any of those tools. They had to make all their own tools, and the amazing work that they were doing back then. It's possible to do. It takes more time.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. Maybe one more question each as we go, and then we can wrap it up. Do you want to be on Knife or Death? And I'm going to follow that up with saying we have no ties with Knife or Death, and we can't get you on the show.
We are really just curious.
No, I have absolutely no interest in Knife or Death. I'm reserving judgment on Knife or Death until season 2, once they've had a chance to evaluate viewer feedback and maybe make some adjustments to the show. I don't know Goldberg or anything, but his style is just way too over the top.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, for stuff like wrestling or maybe drag races or whatever, the man's got it, but Knife or Death is a little bit more of a finesse thing, So, like I said, I'm waiting for season 2. If they do, assuming they're doing a season 2, I believe they are filming one or have filmed it. But before I make any real judgments, I'd like to see what the producers take in feedback from the viewers.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. We're hoping season 2 excels because it's a cool idea. But yes, it was.
Oh, absolutely. That show could do for the cutting competitions what Forged in Fire has done for bladesmithing and blacksmithing in general. I mean, it's a huge hobby now. I mean, it's so many people getting into it because of Forged in Fire. It'd be really cool to see the cutting sports competitions blow up like that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you do anything in particular to prepare for when you went on Forged in Fire?
Actually, I did one thing in particular because I was advised by Adelaide Stein, who went out in the first round because of heat problems. I was advised that it was unholy hot in the studio. So I would spend 3 hours in my shop with all the doors closed, running the gas forge and working for 3-hour stretches at about 130 degrees.
Wow.
It was, I was heat training before that. And it turned out that it was a 90 degree, I think it was 92 degrees the day that we filmed. And the shop was, when I walked into the shop in the morning, I was like, for the love of God, would you guys turn those forges on? It is freezing in here. And it was probably like 75, 80 degrees. But I was cold because I had spent so much time in that high heat.
Wow. Have you ever been to the Blade convention?
No, I have not been to Blade. Unfortunately, because of moving and finances, I was not able to attend this year as much as I really wanted. I do have tentatively firm plans to go to Blade West, which is in Portland, Oregon. They decided to do Blade West this year, and the upside of that, because I can make that into a, multiple faceted trip. One, Nicholas or Grendel, he lives up there in Washington, just across the border. And my youngest daughter, Siobhan, lives in one of the suburbs of Portland, as well as my ex-wife. So, I've got, my ex-wife and I, we get along really well nowadays. So, I've got a place to stay, so I don't have to worry about hotels and all that. I just have to worry about getting myself out there, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to attend. So
that's great.
Well, I think that's it for our questions for today. Thank you again for coming on with us and discussing your episode and blacksmithing and all that. And why don't you let everybody know where's a good place to find you online?
Let's see. You can find me at hammerandthistle.com is my website. Okay. You can also follow me at Jason Nass Blacksmith on Instagram. I do post there. And you can also find me at, if you look up Jason Nass Blacksmith, you'll find my business Facebook. And if you really want to see pictures of my dogs, guns, and, the other weird stuff that I do in my personal life, you're free to, shoot me a friend request on my personal Facebook. I'm still under 5,000 friends, so I got room if people really want to be in there.
Yeah. Well, great. Cool. And, check out Jason's videos on YouTube as well. Some of the instructional stuff that I saw was really great. There's some good instructional videos up there that he has put up, and definitely worth checking
Ignore
out.
those video logs. The video logs are me rambling mostly while I'm in the car, bored.
We'll do, but all righty. So
take a second. I'd like to just I'm over at my parents' house right now doing this interview. I'd like to introduce my mom and dad, if that would be okay with you guys.
Sure.
Let's get over here. This is my father.
Hey,
John.
how you doing?
Hey.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name's John.
John?
We're really proud of Jason, and we're proud of what you guys are doing.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thanks. We appreciate it. And, it's very nice to talk to you.
All right. And Mom's over here under the pavilion, so hopefully we'll have light enough. But let's see. This is my mother, Suzanne.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I enjoyed your questions for the interview. That was
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, they've been hanging out here in the backyard listening to it. They've got just a beautiful backyard here. You can see the creek, I think, there. And it's just awesome down here.
Doesn't really look like you're in the city, man. It looks pretty awesome to me.
Well, I live in the city of Cleveland. I'm very much urban, but they're about 35, 40 miles east of Cleveland. So they're out past the suburbs where it starts becoming country. Neat thing about Cleveland is you can drive half hour and literally be in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So unlike the really big cities like New York, it's like you got to drive, 6-7 hours to get out of the suburbs.
Oh, yeah.
Here it's about a half hour. So it's kind of nice. And, Cleveland really is kind of it is a big city. It's really friendly city too, for the most part.
I forgot to say something.
Dad forgot to say something. Hang on.
Go Browns.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're Cleveland sports fans through and through.
Oh, that's great.
I want to see him do well this season.
Oh, God, that actually reminds me. I was filming the final game when the Indians were knocked out of the playoffs by the Yankees.
Oh, man.
I was filming during that, and our handler, Amanda, I showed up to the filming wearing a Cleveland Indians shirt. She was wearing a Yankees shirt, and we were just digging at each other. And then the next morning after the game, she's just like, "Hey, did you catch the game last night?" And I just gave her a look and just like, shut up.
On that note, I think that's the perfect way to end the episode. Thank you again for talking with us, Jason, and we'll be in touch. We'll chat with you again soon.
All righty. You guys take care. And, hey, everybody out there, make sure you smash that subscribe button for these guys. And
same for Jason on his YouTube and Instagram and all that good stuff. So
don't follow my YouTube. It's boring. Follow my Instagram. That's entertaining.
There we go. All right. Thanks again, man. We'll catch you later.
You guys have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.